Bishop Malone, thank you for this opportunity first. And just projecting to Friday on your installation, what do you think you'll be feeling? What are you feeling now about your new challenges, your new home in Buffalo?
Well, it's a very good question. I really have a whole mixture of feelings. I am exhilarated to have this new responsibility and a new adventure ahead of me as bishop. On the other hand, it's daunting too, because as a lifelong New Englander, as you know I am, I have a lot of learning to do, not just about the Catholic community in this Diocese of Buffalo, but about the wider population in Western New York. I have lots of learning to do, and that's priority number one. But I'm excited. On the other hand, you know, it's not easy. I'm 66 years old. I've lived and served as a priest and bishop in New England all my life. So it's not easy just to leave behind all the people and places that are very familiar to me. But I said yes immediately when the Holy Father asked me to take the position, and I'm happy to.
Did you have a choice?
Yes. Yeah, there's a choice. I've always believed, excuse me, I've always believed as a priest and as a bishop, and I've always told my own priest this, that when the church asks us to do something, unless we have a really grave reason to say no, and there can be such reasons, you ought to say yes. And I was happy to say yes.
How did you become involved with the priesthood?
Well, first of all, I have to say, you know, just to be theologically correct, I believe that God calls people to different kinds of vocations. All of us have one. And that it's God's plan for me that I'm a priest. But how did I discover it? It really comes down to three things. It comes down to the lived example of my parents, who always were very faithful Catholics, not the kind of people who were always, you know, blowing the trumpet about being, but just faithful. There never was a Sunday I can remember growing up when we didn't go as a family to Mass, unless someone had the flu or we had a blizzard. Not like a Buffalo blizzard, but a Boston blizzard. So it would be my family's example. Number two, I went to Catholic schools growing up, and that had a huge influence on me. Thirdly, and these are all, of course, integrated, thirdly was the life of my parish in Beverly, Massachusetts. We were involved in all kinds of ways in the life of our parish. I was in the drum and bugle corps, believe it or not.
What did you play?
A soprano bugle. But I haven't touched that for a long time. I'm getting back to the piano. And I was an altar server and just close to the priest. And a key piece of that was we generally had 4 priests at a time serving that one parish. Because these days it's shifted, so you've got one priest serving 4 parishes in many parts, including around here. But there were 4 priests. They changed over the years, all different personality types, but just admirable men. People you knew were serious about their work, they were joyful about it, and I think somehow that caught my attention.
So it's interesting, one of the main focal points that you've made is the evangelization, how to attract people back into the fold.
Right.
So it sounds like you'll use the same techniques that attracted you to the priesthood. You're going to work within the parish.
That's a very, very good insight, exactly. Exactly. I think we have to continue, by we I mean all active Catholics, clergy, religious, all of us, we have to be very, very alert to the opportunities to reach out to inactive Catholics, to kind of repropose, these are Pope Benedict's words, repropose the faith to them. Take another look and invite them home, never in a judgmental way, but always in a way that's welcoming and that basically says, you know what, we miss you. We'd love to have you with us again, because you and I know that even though there are a lot of atheistic authors these days making a lot of noise, that most of the human race are not atheists. And most of the Catholics who are inactive in the church have not stopped believing in God. Different things have happened or not happened, and so they've gone to the edges of church life or gone elsewhere. But I believe we can welcome them home.
And what is the bishop's role in this? Do you set the tone?
Yes. Yeah, the bishop needs to have the vision and the tone of it. And sometimes, not sometimes, there are plenty of what you might call programmatic approaches to help active Catholics, people who are in the pew on Sundays, learn how to reach out to others, people in their neighborhoods, maybe sometimes in our own families who've been away. Good people, but for different reasons haven't been coming, and to invite them to give it another look. But it is that one-on-one invitation to people that has proven most effective. And you know, if you're away for some reason, if something caused it, you know, if someone in the church offended you, or there's some issue you struggle with, please come and sit down and we'll talk about it, you know, in a serene, open way, and maybe we can get beyond that speed bump.
You must continue reaching out to all of Maine through Portland, because your position there hasn't ended.
No.
And now you have to embrace the Buffalo Diocese as well.
Right.
How are you going to do it?
Well, that surely is daunting. It's a challenge. I would not pretend that it's not. The Holy Father, as of Friday, has appointed me to be Bishop of Buffalo. I will be that. And as of Friday, I will be officially Apostolic Administrator of Portland until a new bishop is appointed. And as we would say, if that happens in 6 or 8 months, it's historic. The Vatican has moved quickly. It can be up to a year or longer.
How are you going to do it?
To me, it's a great mystery why it takes so long, but it does. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to have daily contact with the staff. I have a very much smaller staff there in Portland than I have here. This is a much larger Catholic family. But they're very good, reliable people, so I'm going to have a weekly video conference. We have the equipment both here and in Portland with staff, and other people in the church in Maine know if they want to talk with me over the video conference, they can schedule time. That'll be weekly. Monthly, I'm planning a trip for 1 or 2 days back to Portland. They need to see the bishop in the flesh, so to speak. So we'll have steady contact. And I get every single day a number of emails from my chancellor and my vicar general and all of that. We'll make it work. Although I do hope and pray that the church acts swiftly on finding a good successor for me in Maine.
Attracting new men to the priesthood. There were 3 men ordained in June by Bishop Kimmick, a medium-sized class. Right now, more than 20 total seminarians at Christ the King Seminary studying for the priesthood. Not a large number.
No, it's not. No.
And the priests are retiring, they're getting older. How are you going to handle it?
Well, it is a very, very serious concern. The situation really is critical. And so I promised myself, just as one example, when I was in Maine, because we had a struggle there too with recruiting men to the priesthood. By the way, I should say the young men who are coming to us these days are, I find, very strong, healthy candidates, good men. And the screening is more rigorous than it ever was, but there just aren't enough of them. So in Maine, I promised myself, and I promised God one day, that I would try never to leave, if I'm visiting a parish, visiting a Catholic school or college, I would try never to leave that place without spotting at least one young man who looked to me to be, you know, involved in the church, healthy, normal, pious, and I would go up to that guy and say, listen, have you ever thought of the priesthood? And I do it all the time.
Did you have success?
I did. I did. One time at the cathedral in Portland, I told the people I just had made this decision. It was a big mass. And leaving the church, so I said, one of you may be buttonholed today. So leaving the mass was this young man, about 30, 31. I had never met him, but he's a prayerful guy. So I said, you're the one. I want you to think about the priesthood.
Now, what is it?
And guess what? A year later, he applied, and he's in the seminary now.
What is it about an individual that would fill the bill?
Well, you know, there are many factors, but the first thing you spot is a person who is regular in his practice of the faith, who's there at church, or young women in terms of religious life. You see them there, and you see an openness there. You see a real love for their faith, a prayerfulness, and also, as I say, people who come across when you meet them as people who meet well, healthy, normal, good people. Those are what we're looking for. And you need to have the level of intellect, not to be brilliant, but you got to be bright enough to do the studies and all that, and be able to relate well with people. That's huge.